Oh, shit, it's recording. All right. So I'll just take out the beginning.
Was it really?
Hell, maybe I'll leave this on there. Who knows? Whatever. It's good to have a little bit of humor. Welcome back, you guys. This is Tom from the Progressive Mindset podcast. I'm joined with my good friend, Michael Schreiber, once again. And today we have the topic of denial, and it's really about the current affairs with our virus that's out there. So we're just kind of shoot from the cuff and have another conversation about it. Thanks always for you guys listening. And please leave a comment or review. That helps us grow and get better. And stay tuned. Subscribe. Well, you'll be sent with updates when we have new episodes out. Thanks again. So, Mike, thanks again for being here, man. Let's be real about what's going on. That's all right. Let's just let it loose for this podcast, man. No worries or concerns.
Yeah,
Look,
maybe that's a good idea. Maybe we both need it.
Yeah.
Viewers might need it too. It's hard to stay composed. I'll admit that. You know, you and I were just having a very non-therapist-y conversation.
I know.
Before you hit record, or maybe you hit record too early. I'm not sure. But at any rate, people say authenticity is overrated, but maybe it's not. Anyway, you know, I just with everything that's been going on, I've just been struck very recently by the, like you said, the current state of affairs, and seeing that this virus has shifted from a health crisis to a political crisis. Somehow this has become a political crisis, and folks are seeing this as, I don't know, I've been thinking about maybe being it's infringing on their civil rights in many ways. And I didn't expect this to evolve this way. And so it's been interesting to watch it evolve. And it's also been disturbing, and just, you know, in my opinion, it's been very disturbing, particularly with some of the issues that folks have with masks and wearing masks. And it made me start thinking about denial and how human beings are masters of denial, and how we can turn something like this into a political issue when I don't see it as a political issue. I see it as a health issue. I was struck by some videos that I saw last week of a meeting in Palm Beach, in fact.
Yeah, I saw some recent videos coming out of Palm Beach or wherever it was. Was that something that maybe Trump posted then on accident, or didn't view the whole video or something?
Well, there was that one. There was that very disturbing one. There was the other disturbing one where there were a bunch of folks that went before the Palm Beach City Council to complain about the mask regulations, which I found to be somewhat comical, but equally disturbing and terrifying and frightening and worrisome and sad. And it just got me thinking about how folks can just come up with this construct of denial, and what is denial there for? What is the purpose of it? It's to help you cope. It's to help you manage your anxiety. It's to help you survive, to help you avoid discomfort. That construct can be extremely dangerous if you're denying a reality. But that's the thing about reality. It's totally subjective. So anyway, I was just thinking about that, and how denial is a hell of a drug.
Oh yeah, denial's a hell of a drug. You were right, man. And I know we're talking about the mask thing, but it's not just the mask thing, but just the plausible deniability that there is this invisible thing out there, potentially coming to get you. And what bothered me so much, I think, with the mask. Now, I wear a mask when I go out, right? And the reason why I'm wearing the mask, number one, is that I want to, at least for my own anxiety, maintain some level of protection. Whether it's protecting me or not, I don't know. I mean, but I have it, and I feel like it's protecting me. And two, to kind of show the people that around me that are shopping. I mean, I've only gone to like Publix, which is a supermarket down here in Florida, or CVS or Walgreens, just kind of show, hey, you know what? I honor myself, but I also honor you. And so we're kind of in this thing together to kind of show the humanity and attention to, my community members. And I'm wearing the mask. If for some reason I am asymptomatic and I have it, if I have a cough or a sneeze, it's going to be kind of, protected. And, the studies coming out, I don't know how valid they are. I haven't really looked into them, saying, that by you wearing a mask, the chances go down. And by somebody else wearing a mask and you wearing a mask, the chances go down even lower of you potentially being exposed and contracting this. So it just seems like it's a no-brainer to go out and wear the mask. And you were talking about it before. It's just that it's not like you're wearing a hazmat suit out there. You're just putting on a piece of fabric, Everybody that's wearing it looks ridiculous. And so what? I mean, I remember seeing those pictures or videos from China, months and months ago, seeing everybody wearing the mask. And I thought, man, I hope that doesn't come to our society. My wife and I were talking about it last night, like, to see those on the news and then to see what happened in Italy, we had such a strong connection to America that we felt like, well, that's not going to happen here. Maybe that's ignorance, or maybe that's just, an increased level of, pride and of your country, that we felt like, well, we were, not that we're better than or that we're so far advanced, but I felt like we had enough warning, that we had enough technology and enough resources that we can go ahead and protect ourselves. We can learn from what happened over there. We can send aid over to other countries, and we can protect ourselves, kind of put the mask on yourself before you put it on your child in the aircraft type of thing. Let's protect ourselves. Let's shield ourselves really well. And then let's help out those other countries in need. And it has not been the case. It's been like the opposite of that.
Right.
Almost like that blissful ignorance of, that's really not going to happen here. And you know what? Maybe it's not really even an issue. And you know what? We're going to focus on some other things, like the economy and politics and the likes. And then suddenly it just becomes this vicious thing running through that has created so much anxiety for the whole population, which has made my services go up here, which that's sort of a catch-22, because I like being busy and I like helping people, and I like that my practice is doing really well. However, I don't like seeing people to that almost borderline crisis state.
Sure. Yeah, of course, it's upsetting it's whenever anybody, knocks on your door wanting help, it's not because everything's great. And, certainly, one of the side effects of apparently a global crisis is increased business, because people are disturbed and they're upset and they need help. And, it's good for business, but we talked about it before. The whole point is to make ourselves obsolete, so people don't need us anymore. We want to heal people. So when people come to us in a harmed, injured state, our job is to heal them. Yeah, it's really astonishing. The capacity to deny reality is astonishing. And we're seeing it right before our eyes. And I don't know that I've never seen anything like this. I'm sure you probably haven't. And, it's true. I often
Right.
look, to go back to the mask thing. I mean, they're not fun to wear. I mean, they're annoying. They slip. They're scratchy.
Yeah.
But
when I had a longer beard, it made my beard look really weird.
Right. But, isn't that a small price to pay to protect somebody else? Even a stranger who we might not know and might not ever meet, but, it speaks to a larger sensibility of unity and togetherness and closeness and attachment and care for your fellow man that maybe Americans just aren't that good at anymore. Maybe we've gotten away from that. Maybe we've never been that way to begin with. I don't know. Maybe for whatever reason, I don't know, over the last 10 years, 20 years, maybe even a little farther back, we've become a much more me-centric population. And so if this mask isn't going to directly help me, what do I need it for?
Yeah.
But, as you can see in Eastern countries, like Asia, they've been doing the mask thing for a long time. If you go down to Chinatown, like in New York City, if you go down to Chinatown, you'll see people, before the pandemic, you'll see people with masks on. And that means they don't feel well. It means they're sick. That means they're contagious. They've got a cold. They've got the flu.
Yeah.
They don't want to get anybody else sick. So they've been doing that for a long time. And so you have to wonder about the comparisons. What is their cultural sensibilities versus ours?
Yeah.
They don't necessarily think of themselves as individual organisms. Maybe they think of themselves as a small part of a much bigger animal.
Right.
And they have to do their part and they have to contribute and participate in this for the good of their family, the good of their town that they live in, the good of the city they live in, the good of the country they live in, the good of the planet. I think they see themselves and perceive themselves differently in that respect,
right.
Which I'm not seeing here as much. And even before the pandemic, I think I've seen a certain, self-centeredness that's been very pervasive. And I think, the chickens are coming home to roost now. We are really seeing that in its fullest form right now. And, it's terribly sad to see that and very frightening to see that folks are willfully disobeying a pretty reasonable request, during a pandemic. Can you stop recording for 1 second?
I mean, no, still recording.
Hold on 1 second.
Oh, you got it. All right. So we're back. You know what? Here's a thought. All right. Well, let's look at how our American society was formed, and we're being oppressed. We're being held down. We're being told what we need to do, and we fought against this oppression. We decided that we were going to separate ourselves and form our own thing, and not to get too far into that, but then let me bring it to the current, a state of our society. I mean, I think there is inherent in the veins of Americana this: we do not want to be forced to do anything. We have rights and we want to uphold our rights and freedom. And we want that to be paramount. And so I think that this speaks to that in such a way that people are, even though rationally they could probably agree with and understand, hey, wearing the mask could help myself, my family, and those around me and the people that I care about. But they're making a statement, I'm not wearing the mask because I'm being told I need to wear a mask and I'm being told what to do. And I don't, even just that little smidge, even though that's not hugely oppressive, but that little, what would be the next thing? Okay, now I'm going to be told I need to wear a mask and gloves. Now I'm going to be told I need to wear a mask, gloves, and I can't go out after 10 p.m., and if I get caught on the beach, when the beaches are going to be closed and I can't get caught on the beach or else some negative consequences are happening. Oh, and then there was talk about martial law being initiated, at some point, and maybe that wasn't about the protests, or maybe it was. I don't remember, about shopping or something people going on. But regardless, so anyway, so that's kind of playing devil's advocate and maybe trying to see where the other side is coming from. That maybe that's at work here.
I also think that people are terrified. Nobody in this generation or the generation before, or even before that one, has gone through anything like this. And if we focus on these kinds of things, it's a perfect distraction. It's a wonderful distraction, especially if the uncertainty of everything is so frightening and terrifying. We have to find a way of pushing that aside. And a beautiful way of doing that is to focus on some other thing, some other issue that we feel like we can have control over. I can control whether I wear the mask or not. I can control whether I, capitulate. That I can control. I can control whether I comply or not comply. And maybe that's a way of feeling more in control. Maybe that's a way of feeling, of obtaining some kind of certainty or control, power, because people feel powerless and helpless. And maybe that's a way, maybe if I go to that city council meeting and get on the microphone and gesticulate, and maybe that will make me feel more in control.
Sure. Here's another thought. Well, people are just freaking sick of it. They're tired of it. Not just wearing the mask, but just having this whole pandemic and following the news. And, it's just like, I just want this thing to be over with. And you know what? Even though it's out there, I'm going to pretend like it's really not out there. I'm out of sight, out of mind. I'm just going to put that in the closet for now because I don't want to deal with it. And I just want to get back. I think we all just really want to get back to living the kind of lives that we want to lead, our normal, everyday, we basically live in a society where we kind of feel like we're somewhat safe. I mean, we don't have to wear armor or go out, strapped with guns and ammunition. I mean, we want to get back to working, and then people being unemployed. That's another frustrating thing. And they want to get back to work. They want to make money for their families. They want everything has been in complete upheaval. And, this is, maybe it's mismanaged, emotions, maybe, people just need something to fight against. Not to bring the protests and that, Black Lives Matter, because I think that is important in its own right, and Black lives are on fire. I agree. And then we need to spend some attention to that, and how do we make some positive changes moving forward. But just with the virus thing, people are just over it.
Yeah, which makes you really think. It would be interesting to be able to take a poll of those folks who are, quote, over it, and to find out if any of them have lost family members, and to find out how they have been impacted, if they've been negatively impacted. Because if they had, you would think that they would be on board with masks and on board with all the other precautions. that you need to take and social distancing. You know,
Yeah.
I have to wonder if the folks that are railing against this are the ones that really have not been that impacted. So they're kind of sitting at home and they're you know, they want to go out. They want to get back to life because they really haven't been impacted by it.
Yeah.
So to them, what are they doing at home? They're okay. I can go out. I'm good.
Yeah.
Why can't I go out? You know, I wonder if that's part of it. They just haven't been sufficiently affected and impacted as much.
Yeah.
Maybe that's part of it. I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out. It's difficult to figure out exactly what's going on here. Whether it's denial and when you think about it, what have we really been through over the last couple of months? You know, you get to stay home. You get to watch Netflix. You get to have Wi-Fi. You know, you get to have a nice bed to sleep in.
Yeah.
You get to be pretty comfortable. You can still, even during the quarantine, you can still go out and get food, so nobody's really starving.
Yeah.
You know, hopefully you can wipe your butt if there's toilet paper on the shelves.
Hey, there's plenty of it now. I mean, look, there was this whole freak out about that. You can get toilet paper, you can get hand sanitizer.
Yeah, hand sanitizer. No Clorox wipes, but hopefully those are coming soon.
Oh yeah. Hey, I've bought those big cans of Lysol. You know, I got a bunch of those because I'm at the office, so we've been Lysoling everything down. But you know, at one point you couldn't. I mean, it was just like, you know,
yeah, there's nothing.
You could find any of that. That was
much scarier back then. But you know, I kind of keep wondering what's so bad about this.
Yeah,
that's just what I keep wondering. And you know, I just haven't been as affected as a lot of other people. I still have my job. I, you know, don't know anybody that's really gotten very sick. I haven't lost anybody.
Right.
I'm not behind on my rent. You know, so things are okay for me. So it hasn't been that bad. Has it gotten boring? Yeah, sometimes it's gotten a little boring. Has it gotten a little mundane? Yeah, it has.
Yeah.
But it's only been a couple of months.
Yeah.
And so you just have to wonder if this is how people are reacting and they haven't been directly affected by it and they can't cope. Well, that really brings up a lot of issues that I can't even quite articulate. What does that mean about us?
Yeah.
That we can't cope with a couple of months of boredom. You know, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Does it mean we're maybe a little spoiled? I think it might.
Maybe.
You know, I think it might. You know, if you haven't lost your home, you haven't lost your job, you haven't lost anybody close to you, you still got some money in the bank, I'm not sure there's much to complain about.
Yeah.
I would suggest that people adapt.
Yeah.
And it's taken a little bit of adjustment and adaptation. You know, I'm still going in a couple of days a week to my job.
Yeah.
My job. I'm not thrilled about it because there's a level of exposure there. But I've come to terms with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thankful that I was granted 3 days to work from home. I'm very grateful. And I've been focusing on being grateful for what I have because it's a lot more than some other people have.
Yeah.
A lot more. Even though I don't necessarily know those people, I know that they're out there and they're suffering.
Yeah.
And I'm going to respect them, even though I don't know them. I'm going to respect them and respect that. And so I'm going to wear a mask. I'm going to wash my hands and blah, 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 and all the rest.
And this is why I do those things too. Because I'm in the same boat. My wife and I,
because very easily, we could become those people very easily.
Absolutely.
Very easily.
That's our fear. But my heart still bleeds for those who have suffered and lost loved ones, who have lost their jobs, who have lost their homes, their whole life, as we know it, because of this virus. And for those people, I want to honor them and help wherever I can. And at least, that's the least I can do, is wear a mask when I'm out in public, then that's why I'm doing it. And it's not because I'm abiding blindly to, what some higher entity decrees. You must do this. And no,
It's
I'm doing it.
practically doing nothing.
Yeah.
It feels like, to me, it almost feels like I'm doing nothing,
Yeah.
but I'm actually doing a lot by doing that.
Yeah.
And it's not too hard. That's the thing. It's just not too hard. Why, does it violate? I don't feel like my civil rights are being violated. And maybe that's what the anti-maskers would be worried about and point out that,
Right.
hey, you're not, that it's not making you should be more uncomfortable with this.
Uh-huh.
Maybe we should be, we were talking before you hit record. Maybe we should be. Maybe they know something we don't. Maybe maybe we should be more upset about this. Maybe we're too complacent.
Yeah.
Maybe we're too obedient. Maybe we accept our, civil rights being infringed upon and we just don't know it.
Right. And that's where before we recorded, I was talking, my wife had actually found that article about the 1918 pandemic, the Spanish flu, and they were being forced to wear masks, and most of the country was okay, and in fact, it was like a really porous gauze mask, like didn't really offer much protection. But there was this group that were, I don't remember what they were called, but the anti-maskers, and it was about, being their civil liberties really being, being affected by being forced to wear these masks. And they were, protests and meetings about it and, what they were going to do about it. And then there was a police force that was, basically, coming with thunderous, punishments against the anti-maskers at the time. So maybe there is some merit to that maybe we should be more, opposed to it. You're violating our civil rights, our civil liberties, or, and if, like I was talking about before, if this, what would be the next thing, I don't know if you can make that leap, but.
Yeah, I think that that's what they're worried about, that if we accept this, then what is the next thing? But there are lots of things that we accept for the greater good that we don't complain about. I mean, there have been some comparisons to wearing seatbelts and wearing helmets if you're on a motorcycle or a bike.
Yeah.
If you're wearing why are there laws for not wearing your helmet on a motorcycle?
Yeah.
If I want to take that risk, shouldn't I be allowed to take that risk?
Mm-hmm.
Does not wearing a mask affect you? Could it potentially affect you? I had this conversation with my wife last weekend, and she was kind of like, well, you know what? If you don't wear a helmet and you get into an accident, you may need medical attention. And that medical attention is a resource that you are now utilizing that could have otherwise been avoided had you simply just worn a helmet.
So that's a good point.
It's an excellent point. I can't argue with it. It's difficult to argue with because we were kind of like, well, okay, so if somebody doesn't wear a mask and they get coronavirus, should they be refused a ventilator if they need one?
Right.
I mean, no,
not
they
at
cannot
all.
be. They shouldn't be. They can't be because people make mistakes and they shouldn't, and they shouldn't be punished via death for that.
Right.
So, I don't know that there's any real right answer here, but it's an interesting, analogy. Like the seatbelt law. If I don't wear a seatbelt, who am I hurting? If I want to take that risk on, then I am only hurting myself. But am I? Am I really only hurting myself? I don't know. What about, the protests that are going on, the folks that are not wearing masks who are protesting?
Yeah.
What should we do about that? Do we give out citations for not wearing a mask? What if you have thousands of people protesting not wearing masks? Can Can police give citations to thousands of people? Probably not.
No.
So what do you do in that case? I mean, I was watching CNN last night, and they brought up that exact point. What do you do? Why, why haven't we been harder on the protesters who are not wearing masks, who are gathering in huge groups?
Droves, yeah.
What is law enforcement supposed to do? How do you enforce that? It's very difficult. I mean, I was watching, Chris Cuomo last night, and he was on with, I don't know, mayor of Iowa, something like that. And, he was talking about that this is really more of a personal decision, and it should be left as a personal decision. Otherwise you get big government involved, and you make government get people in line. And there's some danger in that. And I can see that. I can definitely see that. But, where is the line there? When you have people that are being willfully disobedient, that puts everybody else at risk. What do you do then? And I don't think there are any real easy answers.
I remember philosophy class, man, where we were talking about the social contract. This is years ago, but I always liked the philosophy classes. The social contract, and how there's this unsigned, but it's just we agree upon it, that we're going to engage in this social contract, which is stating that I'm going to be, kind and respectful to you, and I'm going to live my life the way that I want to, where it doesn't infringe on your rights, so that you can live the life that you want to, and other things. But basically, that I'm going to agree to abide by rules and laws that we kind of set forth, because I want to be safe and protected, and I want my family to be safe and protected. I don't have to agree with the laws, but I'm agreeing to sign this social contract to abide by them, because I want to have the opportunity to live the kind of life that I want. I don't want to have to be in complete anarchy and things being upheaval. I don't want to have to worry about getting food or getting resources. I want my life to be comfortable the way, that it is. And so, I'm abiding, but I guess you get where I'm going with all that. And so that unspoken social contract, and now it's seeming like, and this is the scary part for me, is the every man for himself type of thing. And the polarizing nature of this thing. And then the politics, which you started talking about at the very top of this thing, becoming involved. Is the most disturbing piece for me, at these different sides, when I'd rather see us join together and find some common ground, and how do we make a new social contract that we're going to agree to abide by, because we want things to be normal. And maybe part of it is that we wear our masks because we're protecting ourselves and we're protecting other people. Maybe we don't, if we see 10 people are already in Walgreens, maybe we wait in our car for a little while longer until those people go out. Maybe we can still protest and give our views, but maybe we do it in a more carefully thought out, where we have some distance between us, and we're not causing anyway. Yeah, I'm just trailing off, but
yeah. Weird times.
Yeah.
Weird times we're living in. It's a lot to process, even for folks like us, who are supposed to have it all together.
That's heavy stuff.
Yeah, I mean, this is the, cross-hatching of so many different things happening, that it's tough to just kind of make sense of all of it.
And we have, for the most part, some shit together. But as far as this stuff goes, then that's why I like that this podcast was us just kind of being real and just shoot from the hip about it. I'm not agreeing with either side really. Just kind of let's just talk about it and have a conversation.
Well, and that's part of the problem, that it's difficult for people to have conversations now. I think everybody's trying to win the argument.
Yeah. And that in and of itself becomes more important than just being real and having a conversation, that I need to prove that I'm right about this and make sure that you agree with that to a fault.
Yeah. It's a problem when you'd rather be right than be happy.
Yeah.
That's a problem. But yeah, I mean, it definitely deserves conversation, careful consideration and listening. And maybe it's tough to ask that of people right now. Maybe they're compromised, maybe they're just emotionally compromised right now. I'm trying to have empathy for folks who I disagree with so vehemently. It's very difficult to have empathy for them and to try and understand them and to see it through their eyes. And so that's why I started thinking about, what's underlying this behavior, what's underlying these theories that these folks have about masks and, lots of other things. What's underlying it? I'm trying to get a handle on that, because I think that helps me to not reject other people and not dislike other people and not categorize them or condemn them. If I'm trying to understand them, if I give up on trying to understand somebody else who disagrees with me, then it makes it so much easier to dismiss them or hurt them, which is just further divides us.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm doing. I recommend other people try and do that too. And man, is it challenging.
Yeah. But you know what? At least we, are trained in being able to meet people where they're at. So maybe we have an upper hand in that regard, but it's still.
I'll tell you, I've had some sessions with some folks, where I think it lapsed into being non-therapeutic.
Right.
For them.
Because your own biases were coming out, and it's interesting because I know you had a thought about it, but just how our own biases cause that visceral reaction, and especially when I have people who are maybe saying some judgmental racist statements, and it becomes very challenging for me to be therapeutic and not to put that other hat on and be like, well, have you thought about? But anyway, continue your thought. I'm sorry.
No, that you illustrated it perfectly. I mean, that's what I've been going through, to an extent with a couple of sessions here and there. It's been hard for me not to reveal my own personal political views on certain things, social or otherwise. It's been difficult because I feel strongly about those things. And usually I think I'm pretty good at reserving judgment.
And masking them.
Right. Yeah, and masking them.
Yeah.
So that's been much more difficult for me, just because I think things are so intense right now, and so that's been a challenge for me.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. I'm with you. And it's not just it's just everything, just it's politics especially, and it's been challenging. And I not opposed to any side. I agree. I'm open. I don't feel like I cling to one or the other, really. I mean, and maybe some of my views are more on one side than the other, but I can see valid arguments and valid points, and I'm willing to listen, and I'm willing to try to understand from somebody else's perspective, especially if there's a solid logical reason behind it. But just coming out with the devout, I'm this way because I live in Florida and it's Vero Beach and we're conservative and we're Republican and this is how we need to go. And there's no oomph behind it. There's no reason or logic as to why they're feeling that way. They're just almost blindly following that this is where I've chosen to.
Right. These are my marching orders, and
absolutely.
I cannot deviate from them.
Yeah. And ironically, isn't that more oppressive than being told to wear a mask?
Unless you agree with the marching orders, unless you benefit from falling in line.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, I've been reflecting a lot. I've definitely been watching more news, maybe a little too much.
It's what is that phrase? Karen and I have been joking about it. Is it doomsday scrolling or death scrolling or what?
I haven't heard that one. What does that mean?
I think people that are just looking at all the horrific things that have been happening, especially in regards to the virus and politics and protests and stuff, that they're just nonstop just scrolling through. And
well, I have to confess, it's probably doing. So I didn't realize there was a name for it. Now that I know that there's a label for it.
Yeah. Well, it's
maybe I'll just do it more.
It's really that Schadenfreude, or that kind of weird, dark human desire to see harm come to other people or to see other people in pain or suffering,
Yeah.
Or a version of that.
Yeah, I hate to, I love George Carlin, comedian. Yeah, of course, dead now, but he was really right on about a lot of things and very, very authentic about a lot of things. And, he was kind of talking about how some of these awful things that you see happen, these natural disasters, they're great entertainment.
Yeah.
And that's a hard thing to admit. And maybe part of that is true. If it's not happening to you, it's entertaining. If it's happening to you, maybe not so entertaining.
Yeah.
But if it's not happening to you, maybe it's occupying, it's appealing, it's fascinating, it's interesting, it's entertaining. And maybe that that's the Schadenfreude too. Maybe that's part of it. There's some enjoyment in this. It's exciting. It's stimulating. It provokes emotion.
Yeah. It's definitely different, huh?
Yeah.
Definitely different living today. I mean, so wild in comparison to just last year. Just think about where we were a year ago.
Think about where we were 6 months ago.
6 months ago, even. Yeah, you're right.
I remember where I was prior to the pandemic. I remember the good old days.
The good old days. Remember
when I wasn't worried about contracting a fatal illness. I've grown up a lot in these last 6 months.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're living in interesting times, and that denial is thick and real, and it's scary sometimes how folks can just very easily deny reality.
Yeah.
I once had a conversation with a veteran patient of mine, and we were having a conversation about reality, about your reality, my reality, and what the objective reality is.
Uh-huh.
And he was saying, if it's your reality, then that is reality. There is no objective reality. It's just it's just your perception.
Yeah. That's all we have. Our own unique perception of it. There's nothing outside of that. It's real. It's only how you perceive it. I like that. That's some wisdom right there.
Yeah. I mean, you can get very philosophical with it. Is this really a phone? Is it a phone? Maybe it's not a phone. I think it's a phone. Do you think it's a phone?
If we agree on that it's a phone, then therefore, yeah.
Right. It's what we agree on.
Sure. What if we could say it was a pocket computer?
What if we agree on something that is not what it is, though?
Yeah.
That's a kind of a big problem.
That would be a big problem, because then we would be disrupting the fabric of all the people that agree it's the other thing.
Yeah, and I think you're seeing the clash of that.
Yeah.
Right now, and it goes even beyond the folks that don't want to wear masks. It goes beyond that. When you have such diametrically opposed viewpoints, you have conflict.
Yeah. Well, like, you call this a phone and I call it a pocket computer, who's right, who's wrong. You can still do the exact same things with it.
Yeah. Yes. But when I think this is a phone and you think it's, a microwave oven.
Right. Yeah. It's a phone that occasionally cooks shit.
They will. One day they will. You'll see.
Yeah.
You'll see. But, I don't think that disparity has ever been so stark, that people feel so differently about things, so opposite. And getting on the same page with each other is so difficult right now.
Yeah.
It's problematic. It's incredibly problematic.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so, why empathy is such an underutilized tool.
Yeah.
Because it's the answer. I think it's the answer.
Yeah.
It's the answer.
So that's a better place to put our energy into, is being empathetic for our families, for our friends, colleagues, our community members, the people around us. Because arguing over this phone versus microwave oven debate, is misplaced energy. And so if that's the real question. Where do we put our time and energy? Because this is distracting from what's going on. This is occupying and maybe being empathetic, or putting in that empathy or compassion to the people who are suffering, and how we can help and support, and how we can make some positive changes, how we can join together. How can we agree? How can we recreate the new normal and the new social contract for, the rest of 2020 and 2021? Maybe that's where we should focus our energy and attention.
No,
but that's still pretty vague anyway.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, I think it's, you put it very, very succinctly right there. How do we do that? How do we get together on something? How do we agree to disagree?
Yeah.
How do we coexist? I have friends, very dear friends of mine, who have extremely different, political views and political affiliations, that I really disagree with wholeheartedly. That could be hard to navigate sometimes. Yeah. It'd be hard to navigate, but we do it. Somehow we do it. And most of the time we do it by just avoiding talking about those issues. But there's still plenty of stuff to talk about. There's still plenty of things to connect on. And one-on-one, it's much different.
Yeah.
I can have a conversation one-on-one with a friend of mine who has very different political views. When it's more than one-on-one, though, now you got a problem. Then it's much more difficult to hear one another.
Right. Because the openness is sort of out the window, at least from the people who have the dominating viewpoint, you know, who are in higher numbers.
Yeah, there's also ego involved too. You need to save face.
Sure. Yeah.
You're worried about what others might think of you.
Right.
Nobody wants to be labeled a traitor.
Yeah.
And people attach very strongly to their beliefs.
Yeah.
Some people, maybe we don't need to. Maybe we don't have to do that. Maybe we could be more flexible. Maybe we should all be more flexible.
Well, this being a political year has not helped the situation.
Yes. That
in our country, you know.
It's factoring into all of this too.
Yeah.
It's a big blender full of trash that's been blended up into a godforsaken smoothie that we're all drinking.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I imagine putting strawberries and coconut milk and marbles in there. And you know.
There were a couple of cat turds in there.
Cat
too.
shit. Yeah, exactly. Oh, man. As long as we have protein powder in it, I think we'll be good.
We could end there, but I want to talk to you about some protein powder stuff.
All right. Salad.
Health worker celebration.
There they go.
That usually signifies the end of another fun-filled episode.
Fun-filled. The bigger question, the most important question, what the hell do we call this episode? We'll figure it out.
I think it's going to be something like the Jerry Seinfeld show, comedians in cars getting coffee. It's like therapists complaining.
Yeah. All right. That's a place to start. All right. So once again, thank you guys. Hey, am I back? All right. Sorry. I'll just cut that part out. Once again, thank you guys for joining us. We hope that you enjoyed this podcast, and we're looking forward to having you for the next ones. Take care.